It's time for episode 62 of the Pressbox Podcast, and that would be at PressboxPod on Twitter. For all the listeners, go follow us there as well. We'll talk more about that later. But in this episode, we're going to break down NFL Week 13, which concluded on Tuesday night. Seems like we've got games every night of the week almost now. But yeah, Tuesday night with the Cowboys-Ravens, we'll talk about kind of the winners and losers from this past week, take a good look at the playoff picture. And we'll finish up with some college football talk, specifically with Coastal Carolina coming off their big win against BYU. And then we'll take a deeper look into what exactly will happen with the college football playoffs based on a lot of cancellations and the kind of the weird year it's been. But we'll get to that in just a second. And without further ado, it's time for our episode 62 of the Pressbox Podcast.
Okay, welcome back to the Pressbox Podcast. I'm your co-host Ralph Miranda. I'll be joined by my other co-host Joseph Miranda, and our producer Nathan Miranda shortly. Today, episode 62 of the Pressbox Podcast, and we're going to continue our recap of the NFL season week to week. We'll touch a little bit on Coastal Carolina's move up the polls and some other topics as they come up. So, Joseph, good to join you again. And what was your initial reaction to Week 13 in the NFL?
Yeah, Week 13, well, let me first point out that, let me take a minute to talk about our Twitter account here, at PressboxPod, as we say every week. This past week, we live tweeted the Sunday slate during Week 13, which we enjoyed, put out a poll question, got some good interaction, so be sure to follow us on Twitter, and I think we're going to do that again this Sunday, so it's another way to, follow the Pressbox Podcast, and we hope to kind of get that going here, the Twitter account, growing the Twitter account here as we move forward. But,
yeah, and before we go, we also got some good feedback from some of your live tweets as well, which is good. Yeah,
which we'll get into. Probably put up a poll question every week, things like that. But so Week 13. Let's start with the Browns Titans game.
Okay,
seems to be the big talk after the weekend, and as I tweeted Sunday. Look, there's a nice win by the Browns. They're 9-3. That's great. They can go 13-3 for all I care. They're not the real deal in terms of being a Super Bowl contender or going deep in the playoffs. I think they're one and done in the playoffs. Like, I don't trust Baker Mayfield in the playoffs. I think that this Kevin Stefanski guy may be actually a pretty good coach. I think he's he's making Mayfield look a lot better than he is.
He is, yeah.
And look, to my point, they were up by 31 points at one point in the second half, the Browns. Mm-hmm. Ended up winning by 6. Now, I know the Titans scored late. It wasn't maybe quite a 6-point game. But they let them back in the game is what I'm trying to say.
They had to recover an onside kick.
Right. So you got to put them away when up 38-7 in the third quarter, right? So that's just kind of, I think, shows my point a little bit. I just don't trust them. I think that when it comes to playoff time, obviously the Chiefs and Steelers. And I think the Titans and Colts I'd put above the Browns in terms of advancing, right? I think they have more of a pedigree to advance than the Browns do. I put them right along with the Bills, who I don't take seriously either. We'll get into that later. But the Browns, Titans, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with those thoughts. I think Kevin Stefanski is the real deal as a coach. I mean, let's face it, Baker Mayfield came into the league with Hugh Jackson as his coach, and of course he got fired late in that season, and then they had the temporary Greg Williams coach. Then last year you had Freddie Kitchens, who was really not a head coach. So, I think Mayfield's a better quarterback than he was the last 2 years because somebody's finally developing him a little bit. But I agree with you. There's something about him that I just don't trust. I mean, I wouldn't put him in the same category as a Justin Herbert or a Daniel Jones or even a Josh Allen for that matter. Mayfield just has this edge about him where it's almost like, I'm going to do what I want to do no matter what, and I don't know if he's the guy to lead them to the promised land. They have a good football team. They got Landry at wide receiver. They got a two-headed monster running back with Nick Chubb being the number one guy and Kareem Hunt being a good change of pace. They got a pretty solid defense, okay? So they're not a bad football team, but I agree with you that Baker Mayfield is the guy, the missing link, not the missing link. He's the wild card that you just don't know how he's going to react when it comes playoff time.
And you mentioned the roster there a little bit. This is a great time to realize the fact you don't need Odell Beckham. I'd trade him. Or I'd get rid of him.
Right.
They're winning. I don't know the record since he left, but
it's pretty good.
It's pretty good, and maybe undefeated. I don't know, but yeah, he's not going to help you any more than you're already being helped. He's just a problem. All right, so I just move on and let somebody else take him if anybody else wants him.
Yeah, I think Odell Beckham, he broke into the league in 2014, and he had 2 years under Tom Coughlin, and he was pretty behaved under Coughlin, okay? And then, of course, the Giants had their changes. They had, McAdoo, then they had Shermer. I just think Odell Beckham needs he needs a Bill Belichick, Coughlin type guy. He needs an older coach that's old school, that keeps things straight. I really believe, judging from the way the Giants have been playing lately, that this coach, Judge, may have been a good coach for him too. But regardless, Odell Beckham is a clown. He's a great talent. But if he could just shut his mouth and play football, I think he could be one of the best receivers in the league, without a doubt.
You keep in mind, too, the time that you said he was fairly well behaved, he had yet to do anything yet at that time.
That's true.
Now he's not just a celebrity in the NFL, he's like a culture celebrity. You know what I mean? Like, after that catch.
That's true.
He's feeling himself now.
And
yeah, that's true.
There was an article written by Jason Whitlock who actually made a good point. He pointed out that he thinks the no fans is the best thing ever for Odell Beckham because there's no distractions.
Right.
He's not having to impress people during his warm up. He's not having to try to,
right.
Jaw with the crowd or get him or be a showman. Right. There's nobody there to see you. Right. I know they all know they're on TV, but
the Browns have some people that don't. Do they not?
They actually do. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a few,
but still no though.
Yeah.
By the way,
it actually helped Beckham, but
Let me interject real quick here that Jason Whitlock is one of my favorite people, and if there's three guys that I want to have lunch with, it's Jason Whitlock, Charles Barkley, and Shaquille O'Neal. Okay, I digress. All right. And looking at the Titans side of it, the Titans are another enigma of a football team. I mean, some weeks they play like they're world beaters that you just can't beat them, and then other weeks, Tannehill seems to lay an egg, and the only real thing they got going for them right now is that Brown, receiver number 11. And Derrick Henry, but the Browns did a good job of shutting Derrick Henry down, and then when they got so far behind, they had to throw.
Yeah. Here's a question too: that when they're really on the Titans, do you think are they really on the team, or can the other team just not stop Derrick Henry? You know what I'm saying? Like, is the whole team
part of the team? I mean,
well, no. But I guess my point.
You make a good point. Here's my answer to that: the Titans have to get the lead. Okay, if they have the lead, even if it's just a touchdown, that's when it's hard to stop Derrick Henry because they've been running him, and then late in the game, he's such a big body, it's hard to bring him down.
I know, but do you ever see a game from start to finish? They're just dominating the game on both sides of the ball.
Not many. No, they had that little run last year in the playoffs. That was about it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I was gonna say. I think I said earlier in the year they're streaky. Like, I don't put too much into this loss. They're fine. I think they'll get in the playoffs, and we saw what they can do last year.
Right.
If they get hot,
right.
They can put together some wins. I think that, like you said, this A.J. Brown guy is the real deal, I think. He's a good receiver.
He reminds me of the guy from Seattle. They like the same guy.
Metcalf.
I know he's not as big, but he's pretty big too.
Yeah, he's not as big as Metcalf.
Yeah, and Ryan Tannehill's not great, but I'd like him better. I trust him more than Mayfield.
Would you say he's in the second tier of quarterbacks, or even farther down?
Talking about overall?
Yeah, of the guys.
No, I'd say he's farther. I'd say he's mid-level.
I think he's good enough to win the Super Bowl, though. Don't you think? I think they can win Super Bowl with him.
Yeah, he's a Brad Johnson type guy. You don't think so?
But the team they have now, I think
could, but I don't think they will. I guess I should say. Okay. But you're right. If you talk about Brad Johnson and those type of guys, then he's in that.
Carson.
Well, but the way they're built though, he could do it because like I said, if you get the lead, you keep handing it to Derrick Henry, you throw a little short passes. I mean, I think he could do it because they don't ask him to do a whole lot.
Yeah, but I think that was definitely one of the games of the week. And
let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers real quick, okay? I mean, because we watched them play the Ravens back. Was it last Wednesday night? Yeah. Okay, and they looked pretty lackluster in that game, but they still won. Yeah. All right, and then they come out here Monday night and play the Washington football team, and they were up 14-0. You know, they can't run the football. All their passes are short little passes. The only deep threat they have is Chase Claypool. I mean, he's their deep threat. Him and Juju Smith-Schuster. But my point is, they drop balls What?
Yeah.
They have two deep threats.
Well, but Claypool's been the guy they've been throwing too deep more than anything.
Schuster. I mean,
But my point is, they can't run the ball very effectively, and they had receivers dropping passes. I think the Steelers are in. They're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're in some serious trouble.
yeah, I think that the last two games have really put the Chiefs as the class of the AFC, or they've shown that they're the class of the AFC. First of all, Smith-Schuster, all right, the guy is widely overrated. His whole deal was like, what was it? I think a couple of years ago he had a great Sunday night game, like his rookie year, and the guy was like 20 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, oh, he's going to be a star. I mean, the guy's an average receiver.
That's when they had Antonio Brown, though.
Yeah.
So everybody's
So I don't want to hear any more about Smith-Schuster. Claypool's already shown that he's better than Smith-Schuster in 10 games or whatever. So that's that. But yeah, the Steelers, I don't know what the deal is. I think I don't know if it's their. And we talked about, I think, last week, Roethlisberger's comments after the game. Like, their attitude is just like, we got to play every 5 days, or the league's screwing us, and, this and that. So that could be part of it. And, maybe it's a little bit of that combined with they were 10-0. Like, let's just get to the playoffs now. There's no fans here. We're not that excited. Like,
I haven't locked up the division yet, though, right?
No, they haven't. Yeah.
That's true. The Browns with that win keeps them right there. But I don't know. It's weird. It's.
Well, you both said before that you thought they were the worst. They were the worst 10-0 team in the history of the NFL or something like that. Didn't you say that?
I think we read that somewhere.
Well, we read people were talking about that.
Yeah.
Okay. They're definitely not.
But you agree they were not.
No. They were not a classic 11-0 team.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Because they really hadn't beaten anybody to speak of.
So you that shocked to see them these last 2 weeks how they performed, or you?
I was shocked because when you're 11, I mean, they played so poorly. That's what was surprising. Not that they got beat.
And against the Redskins.
And the drop balls too, like guys wide open dropping passes, just hitting them in the hand and dropping them on slants and things like that. This is no excuse for that. That's weird.
Yeah.
On the Redskins side or the Washington side, we talked about the NFC East quite a bit. And even though the Giants won as well, I think just based off the remaining schedule, I give the edge to Washington to win the division.
Yeah, I would agree.
Now, I know the Giants have the tiebreaker, but they have an easier schedule. Now, I don't...
I've broken down each team's schedule here. Let's talk about the NFC East while we're on it. We got the Giants are sitting at 5-7. Washington's at 5-7. The Eagles are 3-8-1, and the Cowboys are 3-9. Yeah. Okay. Now let's go down the schedule, and I want you guys' input on this. So let's kind of figure out who's going to win this division. All right, the Giants play at home against Arizona Sunday. What do you think?
I agree with the way.
Yeah, Nathan's right. I'll give it to the Giants. Okay. I think probably going to be cold. Murray out there on the road, and
give maybe slight edge. To the Giants.
Okay. And then excuse me. Then they host Cleveland at MetLife Stadium in a game that was flexed to Sunday night.
Especially, I like to think.
I want your honest opinion.
I think they could go either way, but I think I'd give the edge to Cleveland.
I think I'd give the edge to Cleveland too.
Right.
Even it's difficult because if one of those two teams have to lose soon, like the Giants, what did they win? 5 in a row?
4 in a row.
4 in a row. I'd say they beat the Cardinals 5 in a row. I don't know if they're going to run the table.
Right.
Well, maybe.
But then again, I don't know that Cleveland's going 13-3. But I'd give that to Cleveland.
Okay.
And maybe the Giants. I can see this happen. I can see the Giants losing to Arizona and then beating Cleveland.
Okay.
So they come out of that 1-1.
Yeah.
All right. Then they're at Baltimore.
Give the edge to Baltimore.
Yeah.
And then they close the season at home against Dallas. I think they can beat Dallas.
Yeah. At that point, Dallas will be.
So what's that? 2-2?
2-2, which puts them at 7-9. If that's how it plays out. Now let's look at Washington. Washington this week is at San Francisco,
which is in Arizona. So it's
which is going to be playing in Arizona.
Washington at San Francisco.
San Francisco's a weird team. They beat the Rams 1 week. They get beat the next week.
I think that could go either way. I think it's like a flip a coin type of thing. But.
Yeah.
Who would you give it to, though? So Washington.
Give it to Washington. They're filling themselves after beating Pittsburgh.
Okay. Washington. Then they host Seattle.
I think that's Seattle. Yeah.
Then they host Carolina.
That's Washington, I think. Carolina's not very good.
All right, I don't really know. So
especially if McCaffrey's out.
Okay.
I don't
I'll what do you call it? Bow to Joseph's.
Okay.
I'll go with your.
Okay. And then they close the season at Philadelphia.
I think it's Washington.
Yeah. Washington. I'll say Washington can beat them. Yeah.
Okay. So that puts Washington then at 8-8 and gives them the division. We don't even need to go through Philadelphia, Dallas.
if that's how it plays out, I think the 49ers could beat them easily.
Yeah.
We said it's a toss-up. You know?
Right. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, and then just for the sake of comparison, Philadelphia is at New Orleans. That's probably a loss.
Philadelphia could beat them too, really. I mean,
well, Jalen Hurts is not ready to win games at the NFL level. I mean,
it's good.
Philadelphia hosts New Orleans. That's going to be a loss, I'm going to say. They're at Arizona. I'm going to go with Arizona. That's a loss.
Yeah.
They're going to beat Dallas. That's a win. And then they'll play Washington, which we'll have to say is a loss.
I see them being...
So they're going to be like 4-11-1,
yeah.
right? And then the Dallas is at Cincinnati. That's a win. They host San Francisco. We'll give them a win there. Philadelphia lost. Giants lost. So Dallas is going to be 5-11. So if it plays out the way it is. So really, I think what we've come to there is, depending upon what you want to believe for the Giants and the Redskins or the Washington team,
We're good.
No, it's going to be. It's going to go to the end of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be between those two teams, basically.
Right.
And I have a feeling that one way or another, you might actually see the winner be 8-8.
You might, yeah.
Because of all this talk, we're going to see a 6-10 playoff team. Like, no.
Yeah, no. I think Washington and the Giants are the two teams that have kind of stepped out now and are playing a lot better, and will probably. One of those will obviously win the division. It's just a matter of which one can win a game they're not supposed to win, which the Giants, they both did this past week. So
you think 8-8 is more likely than 6-10?
I think so. I think one of those teams, the Giants or the Redskins, will win 3 of their last 4. I really believe that.
No, I'll say, though, I think when you talk about the playoffs, that team's going to be a 4th seed, whoever wins.
Correct.
I think the Giants have a better chance of winning that first game.
I agree.
Than the Redskins, because you've got either the Seahawks, who they just beat and they've proven they can beat, and they'll be in New York this time.
They've only been in once, not twice.
That's right.
So it'd be a lot easier.
That's right. It'd be a lot easier.
Or they'll have the Rams, the team who didn't win that division,
and they gave the Rams a pretty good fight in L.A. Early in the season.
Or they'll have the Buccaneers, and they own Brady.
And they almost beat them. So yeah, no, that's true. I think the Giants have the best chance of maybe winning that first playoff game. And then, of course, they would probably have to go to the number 1 seed, assuming that team wins. But that's way down the road.
Did Barkley play in that game?
Which one?
The Tampa Bay game. They played Tampa Bay.
No. Barkley only played in the first 2 games, I think. He got hurt like right away.
Against the Bears.
Against the Bears, yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the Bills. The original Monday night game.
Right.
In Arizona against the 49ers. As I said before, they're right there at the Browns, right there with the Browns for me. Maybe a little better than the Browns, but I don't see them doing anything in the playoffs. Like so you got the Chiefs. Let's see here. Chiefs and Steelers will be the 1 and 2 seed.
Correct. Bills will probably be the 3 seed.
3 seed. Okay, right. So then they'll play.
They'll play the 6th seed, right?
Which
is that right?
Yeah. Which will be probably either, say, the Browns get the 5th seed.
Probably the Colts or the Titans.
Yeah, and I favor both of those teams over the Bills for me. I mean,
well, in Buffalo, though, it might have a little bit of a different, especially if it's
Indianapolis.
Especially if it's
especially
if it's Indianapolis because they play in the dome. That's a good point.
That's true, and Titans can lean more on Henry than the Colts can.
Yes, they can.
And Rivers, historically, he hasn't done that great in cold weather, right? Because he came from San Diego.
Yeah, no, he hasn't really.
I don't know. But yeah, that's my thought with the Bills there. This Sunday night will be a good game with the Steelers.
Yes, it will be. This Sunday night will tell us a lot about both those teams. I think it'll tell us a lot about the Steelers and the Bills as far as what they might be able to do in the playoffs. Because Buffalo really has to have a signature win, and I think beating Bill, I don't count their win over New England as a signature win this year, but I think if they beat the Steelers this week, it'd be a signature win for them. And the Steelers, on the other hand, need to right the ship. And if they can't beat Buffalo, I think they're headed down that wrong tunnel right there.
Yeah. I agree definitely. If Buffalo can win and the Browns can win, they put the Browns right back in the mix to win the division.
Right.
Really, I mean, because you'll have 11-2 and 10-3, just one game back.
Ravens out of it basically for the division.
No, for the division, I think they are because they're 4 games behind the Steelers with 4 to play, and the Steelers have game in hand with them. So, but they did beat the Browns. So I mean, if the Ravens run the table and go 11-5. I still don't see the Steelers losing all 4 of their games, so I don't think they can win the division. Yeah. What do you think about the last play? I mean, we've already determined that the Browns or the Colts Titans will be the 5th and 6th seed. Who do you think gets the 7th seed? Do you think it's the
So
Dolphins, the Ravens?
We got the Dolphins, the Ravens, or the Raiders.
Okay.
So the Dolphins are 8-4, Raiders and Ravens are 7-5.
Mm-hmm. I heard an interesting stat on the radio coming back from golf today, which I thought was interesting. And I haven't verified this, but it was on a sports talk show, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But the Raiders are the only team in the NFL who have 3 wins over teams that are currently 9-3 or better, which is kind of an interesting stat. I mean, it shows that they can beat good teams. Yeah. They just can't. They have trouble beating the poor teams. I mean, which is kind of weird. But
I think I give the edge to the Ravens. We've seen I guess what you're saying basically is the Raiders play down to their competition a lot, right? Like
yes. Or they have good teams left in the schedule, or bad teams.
I don't know, but
check.
We saw how that Jets game ended. I mean, you had people arguing the Jets are maybe tanking that game. There was such a bad showing by them late in the game, but and then you've got the Dolphins who, again, like if Fitzpatrick was their quarterback, I may give the edge to the Dolphins because I think he can make more things happen through the air than Tua can, and Tua is just a rookie who just got thrown in there, and really, we've talked about this before too. He's just kind of keeping the car in the right lane right now. Like the defensive special teams are doing things. They beat the Bengals 19-7,
right?
Something like that this weekend.
Right.
So yeah, I give that to the Ravens. I think that they kind of showed the other night that when they have all their guys healthy, unlike that Wednesday afternoon game, Lamar Jackson got right back in there doing his thing on the ground. That's enough to get them to the playoffs.
I agree.
But as we've talked about before, they're vulnerable in the playoffs, right? So.
To answer your question, Nathan, a lot of what we're talking about is going to be cleared up because the Raiders host the Colts this week, then they host the Chargers, then they host the Dolphins, and then they go on the road to finish the season at Denver.
Should you say those teams are the whole poor?
Well, no, we're saying that those are all the teams in the mix, so they'll play each other and it'll work its way out. It'll become clearer anyway.
Yeah, I think so, and I agree with the Lamar Jackson thing. I think the Ravens have kind of maybe righted the ship now. They got through their COVID problems. They got everybody back, and I think they'll probably get that very last seed. I'm guessing. If I had to pick over them or the Raiders, I think I'd take the Ravens right now. For the last seed, for the 7th seed.
So NFC playoff picture here. The Packers Saints are in.
Yeah, they're going to win their divisions pretty easily.
You've got.
Has anybody clinched anything yet?
The Saints have clinched the playoff spot.
The Saints have clinched the play, and the Chiefs have clinched the playoff spot.
You've got either Giants or Washington are going to win.
Right.
So that's 3.
Either the Rams or Seattle.
Right. So there's your 4 division winners. So then you'll have Seattle or Rams lose their wild card. You'll have Buccaneers most likely a wild card.
Right.
And then you got one more team, right?
Yeah, and so that opens it up for like the Bears, the Vikings right now.
Vikings and Cardinals are 6-6.
Right.
Bears are 5-7. Right. Lions 5-7.
Right.
I guess Washington and the Giants 5-7. You got
Well, theoretically, I mean, if this weird thing would happen, let's say Washington and the Giants went out. So now you got 2 9-7 teams. One wins the division. The other could very easily be the 7th seed.
Have they already played each other twice?
Yeah, the Giants beat them twice. So that gives the Giants that tiebreaker.
Yes, sir. I mean, right now you got the Vikings and Cardinals in the driver's seat for that spot. But like you said, that definitely could happen.
And let's look at those teams real quick. I mean, the Vikings are an up and down team. I mean, they had a lead. They fought back out a lead against Jacksonville. They gave it up. Yeah. I mean, Kirk Cousins. You never know what you're going to get from him. I think Dalvin Cook is their guy.
Yeah,
obviously
that's why I give them the edge over the Cardinals,
right?
Because
Cardinals can't really run the ball.
Right. I think Dalvin Cook. I think if I'm not wrong, he had like 32 carries last night.
I think so. Yeah.
Cardinals don't have anybody that can do that.
No.
And you've got to rely pretty much solely on Murray. I also think I saw some stat where they hadn't won a game yet this year where Murray hadn't scored a rushing touchdown or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you have to rely on him for that much, I don't know.
Yeah, and the Dolphins. I mean, you never know what you're going to get with 2 at quarterbacks. Their defense though has been playing really well. That's going to give them a little bit of an advantage down the stretch for that other spot. But going back to the NFC, I think what about the Buccaneers? I mean, they're 7-5. They've lost twice to the Saints. They beat the Packers pretty badly. I mean, do you think they've got what it takes to make a run here and get in the playoffs?
Get in the playoffs, yeah, I do. Well, they play the Vikings this week, so that'll
determine something right there.
Yeah. Then they got the Falcons.
Right.
Falcons can play with anybody. I mean,
yes, they can. Yeah.
Then they're at the Lions. I think that's a win.
Mm-hmm.
And they finish with the Falcons again. They hadn't played the Falcons yet.
Yeah.
I don't think the Falcons beat them twice. So I think at worst they go 2-2, at best 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
So that puts them at either 10-6 or 9-7.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that gets them in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it probably does too. I don't think the Vikings are going to get in. I don't think Arizona's going to get in. So I'll give that last spot to the Buccaneers.
No, we're giving the Buccaneers. When we put our picture together, we had the Buccaneers in.
Oh, okay, all right.
The last spot was the Vikings.
That's right. That's
right. Right now,
that's
they're
right.
7-5.
Okay. All right. You're right.
So, what about and I said we talk about this in one of the tweets. Taysom Hill, is he good or is he not good? Like, assuming
good.
Assuming this is Breeze's last year, which
probably is.
We think it will be.
You think he'll play anywhere else though if the New Orleans that retire?
No. Like, you think they should keep him going forward? Like, is he good enough to be a starting NFL quarterback and have a good team? I guess what I'm trying to say.
I don't think anybody knows yet. He's played 2 games, right? He started 2 games.
Yeah.
I mean, initially I would say, I don't know.
Well, I mean, all we can go on is what we've seen. Is he good enough?
Is he good enough to be an NFL starter based on all the other people who are starting the NFL? Yeah. Is he the one that should choose to be their starter? Probably not. How about that?
Well, here's
he's definitely good enough to be an NFL starter.
Yeah, he's definitely good to be.
Jalen Hurts is starting this week.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I'm not saying he's horrible. I'm just saying he's not any better than Taysom Hill.
Sure.
Taysom Hill's at least showed he can do it.
But again, I'm going to go back to what I said a number of times. I mean, I think the prototypical NFL quarterback today is a guy that can stand in the pocket and throw the football down the field, but can also get out of the pocket and use his legs to make things happen if he needs to. Okay, we've seen Daniel Jones do that. We've seen Deshaun Watson do that. We've seen Russell Wilson do that. We're seeing Kyler Murray do that to a degree. But when you look at a guy like Lamar Jackson, you look at a guy like Jalen Hurts, you look at a guy like who we were just talking about, Taysom Hill. They haven't shown me that they can throw the football with enough efficiency to be able to be one of those prototypical NFL quarterbacks. And the problem with Taysom Hill is the same thing with Lamar Jackson, and I think what you're going to see with Jalen Hurts is that you've got to be able to complete passes down the field. If you can't do that, teams will be able to stop your run or at least limit it, and now you're in big trouble. And Taysom Hill has got a strong arm, but he's not very efficient with it.
Yeah.
Should that put him into the category of he could be a starter? Like there's people like him starting,
no question.
But it's probably not the smartest decision.
I don't think so.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean,
I mean, the Saints season's kind of going along the path of that 2015 Broncos season where you had Manning basically play the first 10 games or so. He got hurt.
Right.
And Nathan calls him Brock Rottweiler came in.
Yeah.
Basically played out the season.
Right.
Kept him in one of the top seeds, and then Manning came back for the playoff, and they won the Super Bowl.
Right.
But not saying the Saints are going to do that, but it kind of.
And Brock Rottweiler turned that into a huge contract with the Texans.
Yeah.
The guy's probably sitting on his yacht right now, sipping a martini.
Is he back in somewhere? Have we talked about that?
He's out of the league.
I think he's out of the
What's
league.
he thinking?
He's probably sitting on a yacht, sipping a martini, thinking, "Yeah," he goes, "I just robbed the bank, baby."
Probably.
Yep. So yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I mean it was an interesting week, and I think.
Well, I'm sorry. Have you given your response on Taysom Hill yet, Joseph? Is he good to be starter? Or not? No, just gonna pass it off and move on.
I'm gonna say no in terms of a guy that you want to build your team around going forward. You made the point. Is he better than some people starting in the NFL or just as good? Sure. But those people, those other guys starting
are not good options.
Right. Like I'm sure the Bears would like to have somebody other than Trubisky. I'm sure that the Jaguars like to have somebody better than Glennon, or I don't know who else here. Of course, the 49ers are starting Mullen out of necessity, but
let's this is an interesting discussion. Let's do this. let's look at the teams that we said we think are going to make the playoffs. All right, now let's forget about who they have around them right now, whether they're able to run the ball very well as a team, or let's just assume that all things being equal means parts of their teams are good. Let's just look at the quarterbacks, okay? Let's look at the AFC East. Josh Allen, can he lead that team to a Super Bowl?
No, I think he makes too many mistakes. You're right.
No, he can't.
No, okay. All right, so that's one. Roethlisberger,
Yes.
I think we also would say he can, right?
He's done it.
No, I know. Mahomes goes without saying he can do it, okay? How about Tannehill?
I think he can.
You think
I think he can. I don't think he will. He can though.
Well, we're saying can, right?
Okay.
Yeah, he can.
How about Phillip Rivers?
Yes.
Yes.
He hasn't yet, though.
I know.
Oh, but he can.
Okay.
All right. So right
Mayfield,
there.
no.
So right there. Mayfield, no. Tua, no. Lamar Jackson, no.
Derek Carr, no.
Right. Okay. So that looks. So basically, in our quarterback discussion, we would say that the Super Bowl entry from the AFC is probably either going to be Pittsburgh, Kansas City, the Colts, or
I agree with that.
Or the Titans. Okay.
Yeah,
So basically, our discussion of quarterbacks, we think it's either going to be Chiefs, Steelers, Titans, Colts.
I would rate it Chiefs, Steelers, Titans, and Colts.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now let's look at the other side, the NFC. Jared Goff, he's already led him to a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I'd say you have to put him in that category. Russell Wilson, definitely.
Yes.
Okay. Kyler Murray, no.
No.
Okay. Cousins, no.
No.
Okay. Rodgers, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
No. Let's get
Brady?
Yeah, Brady, I don't know. Brady, that's right, Brady. All right. So that we got that. And then let's look at the South. Breeze can do it, right?
Yeah.
And Brady can do it. How about the NFC East? You think Daniel Jones can do it?
No.
No? How about
not really.
Alex Smith?
No.
I think Alex Smith.
He would have done it by now if he could do it.
I think Alex Smith can.
No.
I think. Hold on a second. I think this Alex Smith can. Alex Smith.
That's a good point.
At this year, this age, what he's gone through, can.
No,
At some point in his career, he could have. I think.
No. Well, my argument is then why didn't he do it? Because
people can do things and they don't. If you think Phillip Rivers can, why hasn't he done it?
Wait a second.
That's a good
Because
point.
there's more people than just a quarterback.
Okay, all
on
right,
the team.
right. That's right. But Alex Smith were on teams that could do it, and as soon as they got rid of him, they did it. Kaepernick took him there. Alex Smith the year before couldn't do it. Couldn't do it the year before that when they beat the Saints in the first round or whatever.
Yeah.
Put Kaepernick there, he did it.
Right.
Couldn't do it with the Chiefs. Put Mahomes in there, he did it.
All
So
right, that's not a bad point.
That's a good point.
Chargers-
That's a good comeback, too.
the Chargers are still not going anywhere without Rivers.
Touche.
Right.
All right, so basically, then we're saying that our NFC participant is either going to be Green Bay, the Saints, the Buccaneers, the Seahawks, or the Rams.
Yeah.
Looking at quarterbacks.
I'm going to say one thing about Daniel Jones, too, though. I agree. Right now, it doesn't really look like he could. But did you think, before Eli Manning ever got to Super Bowl, did he look like he could lead a team to Super Bowl?
No, not
I
really.
mean, for some reason, they seem similar. They both kind of have
They
that
are.
like attitude on the field, and they both kind of throw a
right.
lot of interceptions.
This guy is a clone of Eli Manning.
Yeah. But my point is, I don't know if I would have thought Eli Manning looked like an NFL Super Bowl winning quarterback. And then he won too.
Yeah, but he had the cachet of being a Manning too, though. Like at that point, Peyton Manning's already established.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Nathan makes a good point here. I mean, in 2004 was Manning's first year of actually playing. He played about half the season. Didn't look very good at all, which you would expect from a rookie. 2005, the Giants won the division, okay? They ended up getting beat by the Carolina in the playoffs first round pretty badly. Threw like 3 interceptions. Right. He threw 3 pick sixes against the Vikings.
I remember that.
Yeah. 2006, they make the playoffs. They beat the Eagles in the first round. And then they end up getting beat, okay? And then 2007 they win the Super Bowl, and then that's Manning, okay? My point is, I think Daniel Jones, give him a couple more years. I think he could do it.
I think he's and I just don't think this would be his year. But I think
going on that trajectory though, this is Daniel Jones's
second year.
Well, that'd be Eli Manning's 05.
Right.
You said they won the division.
Yes.
So
maybe they had a better team though.
Maybe, but
I'm saying like they had to have a better team. 2 years later, they won the Super Bowl.
They did. They had a better team.
They could theoretically win the division this year. What I'm saying is that you saw, and granted, they maybe had a better team. You saw that progress early on from Manning.
Right.
Right. Win the division, Super Bowl.
Yes. Right.
Daniel Jones, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know.
I don't know. And another thing about Eli Manning, though, after he won his first Super Bowl, you could maybe say that was just their year. It was like a Cinderella type of season, right? The great defense. They just have. He won another Super Bowl. Did you think he was going to win another Super Bowl after that one? I mean, maybe you did. But
I did, but I didn't think it was going to be the year they did it. I thought 08 was the year they were going to do it.
All I can go on is what we have seen right now. I don't think Daniel Jones is there right now.
No, that's fair enough.
Right now, okay, no.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. So,
do you think any of the guys that you said no to, though, in that same camp, they could eventually do it? Anybody else that you said no to?
probably. I mean, I think
Josh Allen could
yeah.
eventually, but that's the only other guy I see really.
Yeah.
He's got such a strong arm, though, and
Yeah.
I mean, he can throw that football
Yeah.
really well, and I think that's really.
I can
important.
see him winning a Super Bowl. It's something about
Yeah.
It doesn't like he's there yet. Like he makes
too many mistakes.
Yeah.
well, not just mistakes, but like sometimes some kind of like mistakes that make you scratch your head. Like, what is he thinking? Like,
Right.
I'm thinking of mostly just that one Texans playoff game where he, like, what
He's throwing some stuff this year, throwing past this year.
Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing, but all right, let's finish up with this. We've talked about a lot of good teams, a lot of playoff teams. Did the Jets win a game this year? They don't have an easy schedule to finish with. I don't see where their win comes from.
They have to play.
All right, they got they're at Seattle this week.
Loss.
All right, then they're at the Rams,
Loss.
Yeah.
and then they host the Browns.
Loss.
They can maybe win that game. They almost beat the Raiders. The Raiders.
And then they finish at New England.
They can maybe win that. That'd be. I hope.
Where's that win coming? The Browns.
Who do you think has a better chance of beating the Browns at home or New England?
Nathan makes a really good point here. Let's assume the Browns win this week. I don't know who they play off the top of my head. Is somebody good?
You just said they're not going to like run the table.
Browns this week coming up.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. Okay. Then the following week is
the Ravens.
The Ravens, right?
Oh,
So that's going to be a really interesting game. So let's say they lose to the Ravens, okay, and let's say they lose to the Giants the next week, okay. Then they go to play the Jets. I mean, it's very possible the Jets could upset them. I mean, or even if they beat the Giants. I mean,
in that scenario, though, are the Browns going to lose the next 3 games? I mean, maybe.
Probably not. No, but
no, yeah,
but would you say Derek Carr is better than Mayfield?
Yeah.
Okay, and the Jets
a little bit.
the Jets were able to hang in that game. So I think the Jets they've got some good players.
Yeah, I threw that at the first. I agree with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think their coaching staff's
I think they could also beat New England, though. But my question was, what do you think's a better chance for them to get a win? New England or...
Well, here's something I heard somebody else say, too. So I can't take credit to the original thought, but it makes some sense. New England's out of it last week.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Belichick's sitting there saying, do I want Trevor Lawrence in my division for the next few years?
Right.
Oh, maybe we'll let the Jets win this one, and maybe the Jaguars sneak in there and take him. You know, I don't know.
It could be.
That's not a good point.
It could be. Yeah, it could
Well,
be.
but he already had it. Well, I guess they won't have it yet. Yeah, they'll know if they're having it last week. Yeah, it's a good point.
I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. A lot of good games coming up.
All right, but we're going to say right now, do they win a game, each of us?
Yes,
I say...
they'll win either Cleveland or New England. One of those two games. They'll win those.
I'm going to say no.
All right.
If I had to pick right now.
I'm going to say yes. I think they win
yes?
one. Yeah.
Okay.
One of those two, or do you think those are the two best chances?
All right,
Those are the two best chances,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I'm just going to say they'd win one.
let's put the shoe on the
The
other
Rams
foot.
could show up and play terrible.
Rams
too.
are weird,
Yeah.
but
They are weird.
I'll give it in LA. I think they'll.
The Rams can come out and beat anybody, and then they can look like a high school team.
Yeah.
Let's put the shoe on the other foot. If you're Trevor Lawrence, do you want to go to the Jets?
Sure, I don't care where I go. I
I don't
mean,
think he cares.
Okay.
Well, no, I think he went. I would rather go to the Jets than the Jaguars.
Yeah,
That's
I'd rather
true.
be in
That's
New
true.
York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In New York, and the Jets are just a better franchise.
Right.
You can see them turning it around quickly.
they're a historically
Yeah.
winning franchise.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
yeah.
And you can see you can easily see them turning it around in the next couple of
Jaguars
years.
have never really done anything except that
Yeah.
3 years ago, the AFC Championship game, and then their second year of existing is the AFC Championship
I
game.
could see him going to Jacksonville and just kind of like
Yeah.
blowing the wind there for a few years, and in New York, I could see him becoming like a star quarterback.
And he's going to have a new coaching staff, so that'll help him too. Yeah, but and like Frank Sinatra says, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
What about this? If Jacksonville gets the first pick and the Jets have the second pick, how about the Jets? How about the Jets? I'm going to say something kind of ridiculous, but there's a good point to be made. You could trade up,
Right,
but I'm
yeah.
saying, what if the Jets say, "Hey, listen, we'll just give you Sam Darnold. You pick him, and we'll just trade him." In other words, pick your guy, then later we'll trade you Sam Darnold for. Why would they do that? Sam Darnold another pick, maybe.
Well, that all depends on how valued Sam Darnold is around the league. And my point being is that we look at Sam Darnold different than personnel evaluators do. He may just need somebody. He just may need a consistent head coach and somebody that can develop him. I mean, and let's face it, he only started. Remember, we talked about this once before. He only started a year and a half at USC, or maybe 2 years. So he really wasn't. He's still in his developmental stage.
But in my scenario, though, if you're Jacksonville and you would like a starting quarterback, why don't you I would draft Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, you could. Yeah,
unless you maybe have to give him another draft pick.
You could. Yeah.
At this point, do you remember how terrible Jared Goff looked in 2016 with Jeff Fisher?
Yeah.
And then he looked like he couldn't play.
Yeah.
And then McVay turned him around.
If Goff and Wentz came out in the same class at the start of their careers, if you'd have said Goff would lead his team to the Super Bowl and be a good quarterback,
basically,
no, he didn't.
Yeah, but my point is that you'd never know what a good coach can do for a quarterback, especially.
No. Yeah. But I was big on Wentz initially too. I don't know if it's on record for the podcast, but so I admit I'm wrong on that.
What would really be interesting is if we had a crystal ball and could look and see, had he not gotten hurt, Wentz, would he have led them to a Super Bowl win like Foles did? We don't know. We'll never know.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. But do you think so? But you're just saying that maybe they could get somebody a value for Darnold somewhere. But you're just saying they're not going to do what I said, trade. That won't happen.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. Because what you said after that is valid. If you're the Jaguars, you go to draft a new guy that you can mold.
Unless for some reason, I don't know why they would do this, but for some reason the Jets got wind that the Jaguars wanted somebody else in the first spot.
Could be.
They can maybe say, "Well, draft Lawrence for us, and then
we'll draft the guy you want,
or we'll draft the guy you want, or
whatever." Yeah.
They could just trade. They could just trade. They could just say, "We want the first pick. We'll give you our second and third round pick." Or they won't do that.
Well, I think it's obvious that the Jaguars and the Jets are going to have the number 1 and 2 pick. We just don't know the order yet.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens there. But this will be an interesting week to see how things shake out because there'll be a lot of good games.
Trevor Lawrence could just pull Eli Manning and say he's not going to play.
He could, sure, he could.
Force them to trade.
That's what Manning did. Yeah, I mean, that's,
they weren't going to trade him if he would have not said anything, right? He basically said he's not going to play there.
He said it all along because they knew San Diego had the first pick, and he said,
my point is, if he hadn't said it, you doubt they would have traded with the Giants.
Oh no, probably not.
They just told the Giants who they won, right? And then they traded them.
That's exactly right.
Traded Rivers, yeah. So we'll see.
Oh wait, how'd that go?
The Chargers drafted Manning. The Giants had the 4th pick. The Chargers agreed to trade Manning to the Giants.
And they told the Giants to draft Rivers.
The Giants were told to draft Rivers.
If Eli Manning was saying that all along, why didn't they just draft Rivers the Chargers in that spot? Why did they even draft Eli Manning?
Because they didn't have. They would have given up the draft capital they had. They didn't. It wasn't a 1-for-1 trade. They got some draft picks from the Giants too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Giants aren't just going to say. I mean, the Chargers aren't just going to say, "Oh, we'll just take the guy you want." I mean,
that's what I was saying. Why not just draft?
No, they use the draft capital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
So before we sign off here, we got feels like our weekly Coastal Carolina update.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So they won their big matchup against undefeated BYU on Saturday that we touched on last week, and there was the talk of college football. Game day was there, etc. Came down to the very last play of the game on the goal line, made a stop. So now you've got Coastal Carolina 10-0,
right?
And
ranked 10th, something like that.
I think they're in the AP poll. They were 11th. Now, I didn't see the college football poll last night.
Yeah,
but they were always.
I mean, the playoff poll.
But they weren't as high in that before.
They weren't.
So they probably didn't jump.
But right now, I think they're the highest ranked non-Power 5 team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Cincinnati.
That's right. I forgot about Cincinnati.
I don't know what exactly. Are they a Power 5 conference?
No, they're not.
It's like the big. No wait.
Mid-American or.
It used to be the Big East, right? Before when that was.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
Wait a second. Let me.
They're not the ACC.
No.
That's the only one they could possibly be in.
They're not. Cincinnati's not in.
They're
not the Big Ten.
All right, college football playoffs. Okay. All right, so you've got Coastal Carolina at 13. So they moved up 5 spots from 13.
This one that we're saying, this is the one that matters.
Yeah, right. Cincinnati is 8th at 8-0.
Okay. All right.
They should just change their schedule. Play Cincinnati next week.
But look, okay, and this is, look, honest opinion on Coastal Carolina. This Saturday is really the first time I've watched, basically, an entire game
right
from them.
Right.
Okay. they're just not on the same level as these Power 5 teams.
No,
It's
we know
like,
that.
but you can just tell watching them. It's not the same brand of football almost. Like,
Right.
they're just not there. Like, it's totally, you watch an Alabama game, a Notre Dame game, an Ohio State game, guys are just bigger, stronger, faster. Like, it's not the same.
But you're saying, you just named some pretty high level teams. You're saying even watch a, I don't know, Vanderbilt game, watch a Iowa game. You're saying even the lower level Power 5 teams?
Or take Tennessee, for example. If Tennessee played North Carolina, it'd be a much better game as far as, like, football being played, right? I mean, let's face it, like, all the people that play for Coastal Carolina, they probably want to go to Clemson, South Carolina, but they didn't get offers, so they went to Coastal.
I guess Joseph makes a really good point, is that those guys are at Coastal Carolina for a reason.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
Now together, they have a really good team.
Yes,
they're
they
playing
do.
well.
Yes, they do.
And
It's just kind of like maybe their year. Like
yeah, right. Some things go their way. Right, yeah. But 99 times out of 100, they're not going to beat even a mid-level Power 5 team. You know?
I agree.
I think I said this I didn't watch a whole lot of the game, though, so my opinion is not that valid. But I think BYU, they're a pretty big name.
They are.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like that's almost like the ceiling. I think of Coastal Carolina as a building.
That's a good point.
They can beat BYU type of teams.
Right.
What are they in? What college are they in?
BYU?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head,
I
I
think
don't
the
know.
Mountain West. Yeah.
They can beat that caliber of team, but anything above that,
Yeah.
I don't think they can hang with. I don't think they could beat the best Mountain West team. You know what I mean? I don't think. I guess BYU probably was the best Mountain West team this season.
And
So, but I'm just saying, like, I think that's the highest level they can do. So maybe they can beat the best of those conferences that are just outside of the Power 5, like the Mountain West.
Right.
it goes back to the point which we talked about with UCF a couple of years ago. If you're trying to pick the 4 best teams to go in the playoffs, Coastal Carolina is not going to.
Right.
It's not need to
Well,
be in the
no
playoffs.
one's saying they should.
I don't know. You hear that from some
because they're defeated.
Yeah, because they're 10-0. I mean, the only other 10-0 team is Notre Dame.
But I guess my point is, I don't even think Cincinnati seems on the surface to be a similar type of team as BYU.
They are.
So maybe they could beat them. But again, I guess they're not in the Power 5 either, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So they're okay. So they're about like BYU. That's the highest thing they can maybe beat Cincinnati.
Now look, I don't know all the New Year's Six bowl tie-ins or how they select.
I think you got the Peach Bowl, the Cotton Bowl.
Right, but they
put them in one of those.
Put them in one of those. Yeah,
Yeah.
they could get to. They deserve a New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I think that's the whole question is that the way they have the system set up right now, one of those New Year's Six slots is available for the highest ranked
Right.
non-Power
Well,
5
they're
That
gonna
was
put
Cincinnati.
Right now it's Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That's right.
I say Cincinnati and Coastal Carolina should drop the rest of their schedules because they're probably going to be playing teams that are in the conference up
Coastal
below.
Carolina's got Louisiana in the conference championship game. That's the only game left.
Here's another
They don't
thing.
need to play Louisiana. And Cincinnati probably doesn't need to play who they're playing. They should just come together and say, listen, let's just play each other before the end of the year.
Here's another thing that hurts Coastal Carolina in this particular year. Is I read yesterday where it used to be you had to win 6 games against Division I opponents to qualify for a bowl.
Oh, yeah.
This year they waived all that, okay? And some bowls have been canceled already, all right? So you're going to have you could have LSU at 4-6 in a bowl game this year.
You're not going to because they self-imposed the bowl ban.
Well, that's right. But my point is you don't need the 6 wins this year. So Coastal Carolina may lose out on a spot against a team that's 7-3, say, that's a big name money draw for a bowl.
Oh, for a money draw.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Because the Bulls to pick, don't they?
The Bulls get to pick.
They pick
yeah.
their own.
Yeah.
Don't they have
Some
no
have-
ranking
some-
decides
no,
what bowls.
Some like the Rose Bowl takes. Well, this year it's a playoff bowl.
I mean, outside of those type of bowls, they get to
It
pick.
depends. Some have like the SC winner versus the whatever.
Well, this year you're going to have the 2 playoff games are what? The Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, right?
I think.
Okay, so those are your 2 semifinal games, right? And then you got the Clemson Notre Dame loser. If they don't both get in, goes to the Orange Bowl. If not, Miami will go to the Orange Bowl because they're the 3rd team in the ACC. And then you got the Peach Bowl and you got the Cotton Bowl. So I think Coastal Carolina has a good chance to get one of those games.
And I say give it to them.
Yeah, I would too. But you've also got that thread this year of like a team that could be 5-5, but they're a big money draw, like an Auburn or somebody like that. I just don't know how it's going to work.
Well, I think we're all agreed that let them play one of those.
Yeah, I
games.
agree
Not
with
that not that it's going to happen, but yeah, I think if you go undefeated, no matter what team you are, if you're Coastal Carolina or UCF, if you go undefeated, you deserve that type of bowl.
I agree with that.
But you definitely don't deserve, tough playoff.
No, I agree. I don't disagree with that. Yeah,
And I'm looking here. You got a lot of bowls here that have been canceled.
a lot of them. Yeah, I know.
Good amount. Now looking at ESPN's current bowl projections here, they have 2 different guys kind of laying out who they think is going to be in each bowl, and They agree on a lot of them here. I'm trying to find.
Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, where they have them at. See, right now they've got Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl versus Georgia.
Yeah. And that's a big bowl. That's that
Right.
New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, can you imagine Coastal Carolina playing Georgia?
One guy's got Coastal Carolina in the Lending Tree Bowl.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And the other guy's got him in the Camellia Bowl.
Yeah. See, if I'm Coastal Carolina, I'm pissed over
Yeah,
that.
that's ridiculous.
I mean,
That's probably what's going to happen. They're not going to put him in the
Maybe.
Peach Bowl.
no, they probably won't.
Well,
Cincinnati sounds like a better team.
The Camellia Bowl is in Montgomery, Alabama.
Jeez.
And the
Decline it.
Lending Tree Bowl is in Mobile, Alabama.
Decline it.
I've been to both of those places.
Can't you decline it?
Yeah, you could.
You don't have to plan it.
Yeah.
Say no.
Where was the first one at?
Montgomery.
Okay. I want to go on record, Josh, that if you go to the Lending Tree Bowl or the Camellia Bowl, the Mirandas will probably not be in.
Don't sleep on Mobile. It's a nice downtown. I've said before. But
We won't be there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Forget the swag. Is that what you're saying?
all right. So last thing we'll end on this. Should Ohio State be in the playoff 5-0 when
No.
their Michigan game just got canceled and who knows about the Big Ten championship game?
Well, that's already been decided. The Big Ten waived the rule now.
Okay.
See, the Big Ten had a rule. Remember, they started their season late, the end of October, and they had no weeks built in for any kind of problems. So they said, we're going to play 8 games. And then they said, you have to play at least 6 games to qualify for the conference championship. Well, since Michigan canceled on Ohio State this week, Ohio State's only played 5 games. So the Big Ten championship would have been Indiana against, I believe it was Northwestern. Now they changed the rule.
Oh, how
okay, so
convenient.
let Ohio State in, right? So Ohio State's. But to answer Joseph's question, they're going to be in the Big Ten championship. They're probably going to win it, but they're going to just be 6-0.
They shouldn't be in the playoffs.
They shouldn't be the playoffs, especially considering who you have to choose from for the playoffs.
Right.
I think you put Notre Dame and Clemson in both over Ohio State, no matter what happens in the ACC championship game.
Listen, I don't disagree. In fact, I think Ohio State. You know, I don't normally listen to Kirk Herbstreit, but I happened to watch one of his video things, which I thought he made a really good point. He said, if you're Ohio State right now, you need to root hard for Alabama to beat Florida. Because if Alabama beats Florida, they're in. Notre Dame, Clemson, both are probably going to get in. And then that puts Ohio State in because they're the only undefeated team left.
Okay, but who else would you be putting in?
Well, you got Texas A&M is 7-1.
Florida,
if they beat Alabama, that's going to throw a big wrench into the mix. Because now you're going to have Florida with 1 loss, Alabama with 1 loss.
Okay, but I would argue even that Florida with 2 losses, one being against Alabama, or Texas A&M might be better than
they're not going to put a team in with 2 losses.
Or Texas A&M.
Well, possibly.
They got Miami at 8-1. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to put 3 ACC teams in.
Yeah. Okay. You're right. Well, then Cincinnati may fall in there. I don't know, but
you watch what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you right now. If Alabama wins their championship and Notre Dame, Clemson play a tight game, those 3 are in, and they'll put Ohio State in. You watch.
I just feel like on like principle alone, you have to somehow show the Big Ten that what they did this year was ridiculous.
I agree with that 100%.
So,
Nathan, I am with you 100% on that.
And I think this would be the way to do that. Put Cincinnati over them.
I agree. Now, here's another thing. This Michigan game got canceled on what? Was it Tuesday night?
Something like that.
Okay.
Michigan just didn't want to play them.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine too.
I want to screw
but
them.
if you're Ohio State,
that's true. They screwed them.
if you're Ohio State, how about you find a game to play? That's what Coastal Carolina did.
Yeah.
Their game got canceled against Liberty. They went out and found BYU.
And not only did they find a team, they found an undefeated team. That was a tough.
If you're Ohio State, go. Cincinnati's game got canceled this week. Go play Cincinnati.
Did it?
Against Tulsa, yeah.
Great. Play Cincinnati. Yes.
Yeah, but you see, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with everything.
Cincinnati should love to do that.
Yeah.
I agree with everything that's just been said. But here's the analogy why Ohio State won't do that. It's like, of course, you guys never did this, but when I was growing up, we used to go to the park in the summer and play pickup baseball, right? Well, the best kids, they didn't care if they played or didn't play because they knew they were the best, and if there was a game. But the guys that weren't, if they couldn't get in that game, they were going to go find another game. So the Coastal Carolinas, they have to do it. Ohio State knows that the committee wants them in there. So they're just going to sit back and say, we're just going to play the conference championship
That's
game.
not a bad point, but you make a good point, too, that you heard that if Florida beats Alabama, I think the committee would put Florida over
Then they would have to do that. That's
the committee loves the SEC just as much as they love Ohio State.
Well, because what's going to happen then, here's what's going to happen. If Alabama beats Florida, you're going to have Alabama with 1 loss, Florida with 1 loss, having beaten Alabama, Texas A&M with 1 loss, having beaten Florida, okay? And then you're going to have Notre Dame and Clemson, one of them with no loss, or Notre Dame with possibly none, or each of them with 1.
I'm not convinced that if Notre Dame beats Clemson, why should Clemson get in?
I agree with that.
If everything else happens as he just let out,
No, I agree. No, that's a good point. Which
I think at the end it's Florida over the last spot.
If Notre Dame beats Clemson, I think
that
opens it up for Florida or Texas A&M.
Yeah,
I agree with that because then Clemson's got 2 losses.
But though, if Florida loses to Alabama and Clemson loses to Notre Dame.
All right, well, let's look at it this way. I don't disagree with all that, okay? I don't. But if you're Clemson and you finish 10-2, and your only 2 losses are to arguably the number 1 team in the country,
the number 2 team, which
or
would be number 1 and 2,
could be right. Can't you say, hey, listen, we lost to this team that's 11-0?
I think the only way you let Clemson in is like we said. If they win,
they're in.
But if they lose, the only way you let them in is if Florida loses to Alabama, then you let them in.
I agree.
Forget about Texas A&M. If Florida beats Alabama, you don't let Clemson in. Then you let Texas A&M in.
But can you imagine the uproar? Joseph just got done telling us that Cincinnati's 8th, right? Can you imagine the uproar from a Cincinnati or some other team if Clemson gets in with 2 losses?
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess, but then you sit them down and say Cincinnati. You say you're not in a Power 5 conference. Yeah. Clemson lost to the number 1 and the number 2 team in the country. Go away.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
They have to understand that. No, I mean they have to understand that.
I know what you're saying, but they want to. They'll be upset.
Then you say we'll give you a New Year's whatever bowl.
Yeah, you can go to the Sugar Bowl.
Right. Yeah, go to the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah. Well,
I always wanted to go to the Sugar
Bowl. Get the crap kicked out of you.
New Orleans. Yeah. We'll continue.
You mean yours want to play it? Yours want to attend it?
I was hoping we always get a Sugar Bowl berth, but back then they were all tied up with the Southeastern Conference, so we never could go.
We'll continue.
Yeah, it's all right.
We'll continue to follow the college football playoffs, as well as continue to break down the rest of the NFL season. We've got what's today? The 10th NBA preseason starts tomorrow.
Oh Lord, I'm so excited. I don't know what to do.
They took all of 4 weeks off from the finals.
Oh boy.
The NBA.
That's another episode. We're not going to talk about that. So basically, we've got the NFL and college football will be our main points here down the stretch as we finish out 2020.
Right.
You're
And
not going to be live tweeting from the NBA Sunday or something?
Probably not.
TNT
maybe
Sunday
on Christmas
morning?
Day. You never know.
Well, I think we can all agree that the year 2020 has been one for the books, right? I mean, when you think about COVID-19, presidential election, sports, some of it getting canceled, some of it moving games around. I mean, can you imagine? Of course, I know things aren't going to magically get better on January 1, but can you imagine the celebration on New Year's Eve when we're counting down, right? 10, 9,
You'll hear a lot
8.
about that.
I mean, you'll hear a lot about that, right? To finally get rid of this year that's been such an upheaval of a year. But hopefully next year, from a sports perspective now, will be normal. Everything will be back to the way it was, and we won't have all this ridiculousness of can't play non-conference games getting moved and postponed. It's been a mess.
All right, so there you have it, episode 62 of the Press Box Podcast, and we will see you next time.